Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. If you don't know me, my name is Anka, and I will be your host for the day. We've got a lot of cool things lined up for you today. Before I get to do the introducing to today's webinar and today's host, I wanted to just allow a few moments for everyone to join and see where everyone's from. And I personally am from Romania. So right now it's 8 p.m. my time. I'm assuming most of you are drinking your coffees right about now. So let me know in the chat where you're from while I have our next guest joining us. And today's going to be a very cool session. We have a lot of interesting topics to discuss. And I do advise that along with your coffee, you also have a pen and paper because it will be jam-packed with awesome info. So the plan is that today we're going to learn how to make a winning marketing plan that guarantees ROI, or return on investment. And the agenda for today, let me just show you a little bit of what's coming, is going to be split into 3 separate sessions with 2 intermissions of about 5 minutes so that we can relax for a second between different topics. You'll gain a deeper understanding of your target audience, followed by the creation of an omni-channel strategy that will drive engagement and generate traffic. From our first talk, also you'll be able to get valuable insights on the crucial components of high converting landing pages and how to measure and optimize your results. Next up, we'll be learning a lot more on how you can add a twist to your content marketing routine by incorporating interactive elements that elevate your game. And finally, we'll explore the ways in which social media can add more value to your overall strategy and your efforts. And we'll be making sure to focus your social media strategy aligned with your goals and use tactics that will actually get you results. So I'm very curious of what each of the speakers has to say. Are you joining, Michelle?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi. So that was a bit confusing.
I think what happened is I used the wrong registration link. So I'm Tess today, guys.
Okay.
Nice to meet everyone.
Is there any way you can share your video as well? We are not able to see you at the moment.
It is actually telling me that I cannot start the video because it says the host has stopped it.
Okay, that's interesting. Sorry, guys. Apparently there's okay, you know what? We're going to do something different. I am going to look in the settings and see how we can do this to make sure that you can set your video. In the meantime, let me introduce Michelle. So Michelle is a senior manager of strategic services at Instapage, and she has a proven track record for helping businesses develop winning marketing plans that deliver measurable results. Michelle, I'm going to let you take over, and in the meantime, I'll work behind the scenes to get you the video.
Thank you. That sounds good. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm really sad I put, all my makeup on today so y'all can see me and my pretty face, but
I'll make sure you
we'll get there.
Yes.
Yeah. But I am super excited to join everyone here today and share some of the proven steps I've learned to help customers find success when building their marketing plans. Generally, the key takeaways I hope everyone gets out of this webinar are to learn how to identify your target audiences and develop buyer personas, create a content marketing strategy that drives traffic and engagement, design conversion-focused landing pages, and then also be able to track those results and optimize those landing pages as needed. So just diving into number 1 with identifying and getting to know your audiences. So the ability to identify your target audiences in detail is crucial. It's not enough anymore to only access spreadsheets of only demographic data. And while it helps to know such things such as gender, shirt size, and the general location, Restricting your strategy to only this level of insights can actually end up hurting your conversion rates and also lead to stereotyping and bias. Instead, you'll want to be able to access more nuanced, granular data to gain truly meaningful insights into customers who are ready to convert. So developing your target audience personas or your ICPs, ideal customer profiles, requires careful customer research. And in doing so, you'll need to consider a wide range of data. First, starting off with that one that we already mentioned, demographics. So looking at different age, gender, and income, looking at the different psychographics. So the values, attitudes, and interests of your potential audience. Firmographics, so what company do they work for, what industry they are in, and then even what their title is. So are they a decision maker? Are they an individual contributor? How do those two work in tandem? There are different geographics. So, where are they located? City, state, country. What is their behavior like? So looking at the different pages that they viewed, what have they downloaded previously? From this, you could kind of measure where they're at in the funnel and market to them differently. And then also looking at like that transactional behavior. So what does their purchase history look like? I think Amazon does this really well. They track everything that you buy, right? And then they're making additional suggestions for you on what they would recommend next. But once you have all that information, you can go ahead and create different buyer personas. So persona building is specific to each industry, business, and product line. Typically, a marketer develops a persona for each target audience segment. For example, creating a campaign for an optimization software, you could come up with a persona for a bottom funnel customer who actively wants to pursue more time for their hobbies. Maybe call that person Hobby Hannah. In contrast, Busy Brandon is a persona who also wants more time for his hobbies, but doesn't think there is a software solution that will help him get to his to-do list under control. So they both have similar interests and goals, but their needs are slightly different. Hobby Hannah wants more time, and Busy Brandon needs help managing his to-do list. And so you can market to them differently based on those different needs. I find that creating these buyer personas is super helpful in then developing the message for your marketing plan and how you end up marketing to them. The next step would be creating an omni-channel strategy that drives traffic and engagement. So to kind of sum that up, the concept of providing of omni-channel marketing is the concept of providing a seamless user experience across all channels relevant to the buyer's persona. When you think about it, I like to, we've all heard the thing of like rowing the boat in the same direction, but since we have social bee on here, I kind of like to think about it as your little beehive, right? Like everyone has a job to do, but in the end, their goal is to gather food and sustenance for the hive, right? Make sure that they're cleaning up and doing maintenance. Everybody has a role, but it's all the same goal, which is like the survival of that hive and then like propagating and spreading, right? And that's what a business's goal.
Very true, very on point.
Yeah. And that's what like a business goal is too, right? Like there's different roles and different types of marketing within there, but you want your omni-channel strategy to all go towards like the growth of that organization. So why is it important? Essentially, marketing used to be a 1 or 2 stop buying journey, and it's now something that spans days, times, locations, and different channels. And those channels aren't strictly technological ones. They can be newspapers, trade magazines, or catalogs in the mail. They can be your storefront if you have a physical location, word of mouth, so looking at testimonials, and then an outbound ad, something like a billboard. So it's not all digital, but you want to all tie those into the same measurement or goal for your website. You want to be able to make sure that everything is sending the same message and working towards the same goal. So what do you need to create an omni-channel marketing strategy? The first thing is an emphasis on your content. Basically take a look at what type of content your customers are consuming and when they're consuming it. Are your ebooks resonating with them? Do free trials help convert customers? Or do they prefer to work with a sales team and they're really into like nurturing that relationship? At what point in the buyer's journey do each of your offers perform best? And then also look at, are your assets optimized for the device and where they most often consume their media? Next, you want that deep knowledge of your customer. So we talked about that a little bit earlier when we were talking about creating our personas. But in order to provide a valuable omni-channel experience, you must know your customers. You have to understand who they are, where they're coming from, and then encourage customer feedback using social listening tools, leveraging the power of lead capture on landing pages, and learn more about them. A lot of people use what they call a CRM, which is a customer relationship management. And so that relationship is that key part to your marketing strategy. So make sure that you're building that customer relationship. But most importantly, evaluate which channels they are using to access your content, and then use those as your benchmark. But remember that they may vary based on the business's audience and the different buyer personas. Next, you'll want to look at interdepartmental coordination and agility. So agile marketing is something that puts customers at the center and makes for an effective omni-channel strategy. Collaborating across different departments so that more than one is responsible for the customer experience enables each team to understand how their work fits into the omni-channel puzzle. That in turn sets clear the expectations that can streamline team communication. So again, going back to that example of the beehive, everybody has a different role. Once the food is in the hive, you then have the bees that are responsible for the maintenance. So think about, your customer service team is as much responsible for your marketing as is the bees that are gathering the pollen and bringing it into the hive. So you want to make sure that you're communicating across those different channels to make sure that everything is working in tandem and, communicating what your needs are for your audience. Next, you want to look at a fully integrated marketing stack. At the heart of every productive marketing technology stack is a customer relationship management tool. So we already talked about this a little bit earlier, but it allows you to record in detail each buyer's journey from prospect to customer. And if the CRM is at the heart of the analytics tool is the brain. So without it, you can make informed decisions about your strategy, and then also make sure you have both. Build the trust of your stack with tools that enable you to understand and better connect with your customers based on your different industry goals. And then finally, building responsive website and landing pages, and that ties into this online strategy. So nobody likes to pinch and zoom on a mobile device or endlessly scroll. They don't want to feel confused about your website content, so clarity is super important. Customers access your brand's content on a lot of different devices, and so it needs to be displayed well on every screen. All of your pages should be designed responsively, especially your landing pages, which brings me to our next topic. So the next thing you want to do is make sure that you include well-designed conversion-focused landing pages as part of your marketing strategy. And when you're doing this, there's actually 3 things that you really want to keep in mind with those. The first one is to provide a personalized add to page journey. So when you're thinking about personalized, you want to think about the user experience to each individual's preferences and interests. You can create a more engaging and relevant journey that is more likely to result in conversions if you are creating that add to page relevancy. By demonstrating that you understand and value your customers' needs and preferences, you can foster a stronger connection and increase brand loyalty. And then by offering a personalized add to page journey, you can differentiate your brand from competitors and stand out in a crowded market. And with that, what we're showing here is that you can increase clicks as the visual and the message match. So the ad they saw remains consistent. So again, creating that consistent experience with your marketing strategy. It helps the user orient themselves once they get to the website to know that they're in the right place. If your ad that you show is completely different experience once they get to the website, it creates a sort of dissonance, like they're like, oh, am I in the right place? And they have a higher likeliness to bounce if they don't feel a connection between those 2 things. So it's super important that you create that relevancy. Next, you want to follow landing page best practices. So make sure that you're using a compelling headline. It should really grab the reader's attention and clearly communicate the value of your product and service. And then bonus points if it's the same or similar to your ad that uses the same keywords. Second, you want to make sure that you're keeping it distraction-free. So you want to avoid clutter and focus on clear and concise messaging. Use different headings, bullet points, and white space to break up the content and make it easy to scan. I saw a great study from Nielsen Norman saying that close to like 75% of people are scanning your website, but they're not reading your entire content. So it is really important to make sure like you're bullet pointing, making the content easily scannable, and like just the most important information on the page that's relevant to that user. And then it's important to also include a clear and direct CTA. So make it clear what you want the visitor to do next, whether it's signing up for a newsletter, making a purchase, or downloading an asset or a resource. And then finally, including that social proof. So making sure that you include customer testimonials, ratings, and reviews to build trust and credibility with your audience. Then the third thing you want to do is make sure you hone in on your overall strategy. So ask yourself, do I even have a landing page strategy? And if not, take a look at how you can build different personalized landing pages and experiences for your target audiences. Essentially, you want this to target up to your marketing strategy. First, look at target audiences, identify your target audience, and create personas to help guide your messaging and design decisions. Next, determine the different goals for your landing pages, whether it's to generate leads, make a sale, or drive traffic to another page. So is everything on that page pushing the visitor towards that goal? Next, look at your messaging to make sure you're developing a clear and compelling message that resonates with your target audience and addresses their needs and pain points. Then use testing, A/B testing, to experiment with different headlines, calls to action, and design elements to optimize your landing pages. And then finally, analytics. Make sure that you're using analytics to track key metrics such as conversion rates and bounce rates, and then use that data to continuously improve your landing page strategy. Which leads me into our final point, which is to track the results and optimize as needed. So we talked about using landing page best practices. And one of the things I like to say is our best practices are essentially our best guesses. We've known in the past that this has worked. Other people may have tested it. We know that, it's a good starting point, but we want to make sure that it works for us, right? We want to make sure that it's converting for our audience. So it's a good place to start, but it's always important to test as well. So if you want to take a quick screenshot of this, this is our optimization checklist. Some of these we just talked about, but again, making sure that your offer and your CT are clear and concise. Clarity, one of the biggest elements on a landing page that you want to make sure you're optimizing for. If you're reading through it and it doesn't make sense to you, chances are it doesn't make sense to your audience either. And so make sure that you're sending out a clear message. Make sure you're catering to your audience. We talked about Hobby Hannah and Busy Brandon. So are we sending a message to them that specifically meets their needs? Be consistent in your ad to page journey. We talked a little bit about how making sure that the message match from the ad over to the landing page will create a better user experience and help orient the visitor. Don't overcomplicate your pages. So don't add too much information. You don't want to overwhelm a visitor. You want to serve them with the right message at the right time, which also includes being intentional with your page layout. So are you serving the most important information first? How are you bolstering that? Are you then creating a sense of urgency for your user? So do you have an offer that's only available for a limited amount of time? Are you calling that out? Are you telling them, this is only available today? But at the same time, you want to be authentic, right? We don't want any of those like fake count times. Like if the offer is always available, there's no reason to not be authentic with that. Like maybe it's 15% off for first time users and that's always on, right? But be authentic and intentional. And then leverage your team and see if they have any suggestions or feedback. So maybe you hear from the customer service side of things, oh, well, I had, this little blip in my experience with onboarding or when I was learning about the product. That's an opportunity for you to improve that experience. So full growth marketing cycle is taking that feedback and then improving your services and how you market to your audience. And then in the end, don't stop testing and optimizing. So testing is the only way for you to know what actually works for your audience and what doesn't in your marketing campaigns. And there's always room to continuously improve.
Michelle, I
So
actually wanted
sorry,
to
go ahead.
ask you a little bit on the topic of the checklist. Um, I know that in the old days, the reading was something like an F shape. Is that still
Mhm.
the case for websites today, or do you do a different scanning of the website as a user? Do you know?
Yes. So F pattern is still very common, and it depends on your location too, right? So
Mhm.
me being in the United States, I read top to bottom, left to
Yeah.
right, and so that's a natural pattern for people to scan a page. But if you're marketing somewhere, maybe like in the Middle East, or if you have something in China, like some of those languages, they go in opposite direction. So that's again where it's really important to kind of see what are the patterns of your audiences and make sure that you're catering to that.
Yeah, awesome.
Right? Any other questions?
We do have some, but I'm saving them for the
Okay,
Q&A.
all right, perfect. We're almost there, but essentially the key things that you want to keep in mind with your testing. Number one, don't sleep on mobile, but then also keep in mind that that is dependent on your business. So I see a lot of B2B is still desktop heavy. So if you're a B2B organization, make sure that you're measuring your split. But most organizations, they do cater more to a mobile audience. So make sure you're thinking mobile first when you're optimizing your landing pages. The next is that brevity works on pages. So make sure you're being bold and being clear with your audience when you're tailoring your messages for them. Don't overcomplicate. So again, being clear and concise with your messaging. Fluffy marketing is fun, but is it actually sending the message that you want the visitor to have when they get there? And then also leverage your team. So make sure that you're polling different people within your organization, getting that customer feedback, and then using that to inform your future strategies for your marketing plan. And with that, go forth with Instapage to build landing pages without limits. So a little plug for Instapage, we do build and deploy optimized landing pages that convert all without a developer. Instapage enables marketers to improve their digital ad campaign performance at scale, resulting in increased CVRs and return on ad spend. So go ahead and open it up to the audience. Also to let you know that we do have a free trial for 2 weeks on Instapage's build plan. So if you want to try out the tool, you can go ahead and sign up after this webinar. All right, questions?
All right, so let's see. We have about 5 questions to start with, and we can move along, hopefully with more questions. We have about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So let's see. First question that I have here is, my product requires quite a lot of education for anyone who is top of funnel. We need to tell them why they need our product. Should we do this via breaking it up into phases, stepping stones?
So I think if there's like a lot of education, then you can do kind of maybe like a split tutorial approach where you're providing the information on a page, but then you have those gentle nudges towards your final goal. So I've seen this with a couple that require like the education piece where it's very like content heavy, but what I would recommend is making that content as scannable as possible. So maybe is there a way that you can break this section of information into maybe a subhead and then maybe 3 or 4 bullet points that make it scannable? And then if they need more information, a call to action to learn more or get more details for that specific content section. And then below that, if it's like a demo or a lead gen, then you can encourage them to kind of nudge them along the way for each of those questions.
Awesome, thank you. I'm moving on to the next question that I have here. What are some common mistakes to avoid when developing a marketing strategy?
I think one of them would be not establishing early on what your goal is. So a lot of times, especially on the Instapage side where we're creating landing pages for visitors, we'll see in theirs, like they have all the segmentation in their ads, but then they're sending everybody to the homepage. And so they don't have like necessarily their goal established for each of their pages of what they want the visitor to do. And it's not super clear on the homepage what the next step is. So I think one of the most common mistakes is not starting off by establishing what your goal is that you want visitors to complete and then centering everything around that.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. My next question here is, how can you create a compelling value proposition that resonates with your audience?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I would say your value proposition is probably the most important thing on your landing page, followed right by that clarity. But essentially, what you want to do is say what your product is or what your service is, clearly define that. Identify what problem you're solving for, and then for your solution for that, how do you do that different than your competitors? So what makes them want to do this solution with you versus anybody else? So those are like the key components to creating a value proposition, are what are you actually offering? What problem are you solving for? And then why do they want to do it with you? What makes you different?
Yeah, I think that's the most important part. Why would they want to do it with you? I think that's very valuable of a question to ask yourself.
Definitely.
Okay, next question. I only have 2 more here, so if anyone in the audience still has questions, please pop them in the Q&A box now. So this question asks, how do you identify and target your ideal customer?
So I have seen this come up a lot where a lot of people start very broad, but it goes back to creating those personas and then also understanding your value proposition. So by understanding what the problem is and what solution you offer, you can say, oh, this solution is for this type of person. And then you can start creating different messaging surrounding those. And now, what I do always recommend is test it out, right? So create your ads and your landing pages and start to like dive into those segments and see, are there areas of opportunities that you haven't thought about, or is there one that you thought would work for you that isn't working? But essentially start with that value proposition and then build off of that. And then you can help identify your different audience and your target.
Awesome. I have one more question left and then a follow-up question to my first one. So I'll just do them in order. So right now, what is the most critical part of creating your marketing plan?
I think that would go back to the first one, is establishing what your goal is for the visitor and how you are going to measure success. Those two in tandem, I would say, are the most important, because you can have your goal, but if you don't know how to measure what the success of that is, you don't know what you're optimizing towards. So that is the most critical part to me, and in my experience.
I tend to agree. Okay, so the follow-up question that I have here asks, you mentioned the tech stack. What does Instapage integrate with? Email, social, Shopify, analytics, etc. What else is needed to set it all up?
So with Instapage, I cannot name every integration because I think there's over 300 different integrations. But essentially, if you sign on for Instapage, number one, we have great support documentation. And then if you're on one of our convert plans, you'll also get a dedicated customer success representative that will walk you through, helping you set up the different integrations that you have there. But we integrate with everything. Like if you're a lead gen company, we have Zapier, we do, Salesforce, Pardot. There's so many like different integrations on that side. And then for the e-commerce side, I think Shopify, I don't want to misquote, but like we've plugged in and used a lot of different e-commerce solutions as well that people have been able to feature on the pages.
Awesome. And I'm sure every one of those integrations is visible somewhere on your website, right?
Yes, and definitely, like if you even just Google Instapage and then the integration you're looking for, I'm sure there's a doc somewhere that tells you if it's
Absolutely.
available.
And if not, you can always just email their support team and they'll be happy to help with any integrations, I'm sure.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, like even if you don't see an integration that already exists, it's worth it just to reach out to the customer success team, because that maybe it's something that we're working on, or maybe we just need help with like a custom API. We have a full expert services team that is dedicated to making sure that our customers are successful on the platform. So yeah, you generally can find a solution for you.
And someone from your team, I assume, included a link to the features and integrations landing pages. So you can now see them directly in the chat here.
Perfect.
Awesome. A few other questions popped up in the meantime, so let's answer those very quickly so that we can move on. What are some of the best practices for two-sided marketplace when you have two different target audiences?
So number one is making sure that you're creating a separate landing page for each of those target audiences. That way you can create your value proposition specifically for them.
Awesome. I also have one in the chat here. What is the most effective way to research your ideal customers' psychodemographics?
I think maybe doing audience polling on there. So there are a lot of great tools like usertesting.com and other like user testing platforms, I think Zoom Info, and they can, if you tell them like what you think your ideal customer profile is, they'll actually go out and gather some of that research for you. But if it's something you want to do on your own, usertesting.com is a great way to start gathering some information. And once people land on your website, you can like kind of incentivize them to, you know, provide some information about themselves and what's working and what's not working.
Perfect. These next two questions are sent by the same person, so I'm just going to merge them together. One, do you have study cases of telecom services selling with Instapage? And they're following up with, I'm looking forward to selling recurring services with Instapage and a cart checkout of Shopify.
Okay. Let me, if you don't mind sending your information over, I'll connect with my marketing team. I know we have worked with telecom companies in the past, but let me find the marketing information and send that over to you. And then same for the Shopify integration question.
Perfect. And final question that we have here is, how can I make one and only value proposition when I have 3 axes and two problems resolve for one avatar customer in my business?
So if you're solving for multiple problems, you can note that in there. I don't know specifically which ones they are, but the question is the same audience having each of those problems, or is it 2 different audiences having those problems? So you could create a landing page for one problem and solution and a landing page for another problem and solution. And then if you have different target audiences for those, you're making sure that you're making that message relevant to them. But if it's one audience and they each have these 2 problems, then go ahead and wrap that into the single value proposition.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michele. I'm sorry we weren't able to see you. I actually looked through the different ways to get your camera on, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm really sorry about that. Those were all the questions. I hope everyone really enjoyed Michele's presentation. I know I did, and I learned a few things. So again, Michele, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop your screen sharing right now, and feel free to stick around. We're going to take a 2 to 3 minute break now. So we're going to be back in just a little bit with Adam from ShortStack and more amazing information. So I'm going to mute myself, and we're going to drop off video for a bit just to replenish, drink some water, and be back for more.
Perfect. Thank you again. And I'll go ahead and pop my email in the chat for everyone as well.
Perfect. Okay, I think we're ready to get back into it. So our first guest, Michele, has taught us more about creating a marketing plan and a landing page strategy. And our next guest is going to be talking about creating a content marketing plan that drives business growth and delivers measurable results, which is not as easy as it sounds. That's why we've partnered with Adam Hunter. Hi, Adam, you're already on with us. Hopefully you can hear us and see us.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Hi, thank you for being here. Are you also unable to open up your camera?
Here, it says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it. So I don't think so.
Oh, no.
But that's okay.
Well, I can't find any setting for it. So I guess I'm gonna just turn off my camera as well while you're presenting, just to make sure there are no distractions there.
Sure, no worries.
So Adam is the VP of sales at ShortStack, and he can help you create and distribute content that stands out in a saturated market. Adam, I'm going to stop my share screen and help you take over so that you can get started.
All right. I'm sharing my screen. So just since you can't see me, you can look at my old picture right there.
Yeah, sorry guys, that's on us.
That's okay. It's not a problem. So yes, I'm Adam Hemler. I'm with ShortStack, and today I'm going to be talking about interactive campaigns, promotions, contests. I mean, that's kind of the bread and butter of ShortStack. And I've been with ShortStack for 12 years, which means I've worked with many clients over such a period of time with so much change. When I first started, the audience that clients were trying to reach out to were distracted with Facebook when it first came out, and then it was Instagram, and then it was TikTok, and now it's playing with AI, whatever it is. There's so many distractions anymore, and we've helped our clients evolve over that same time in trying to, in a way, become a bigger distraction than the rest, because they still want to get in front of audiences and collect leads, data that they can then further use to increase that revenue ROI, get in front of them, whatever it might be, whatever that end goal is. And so I'm going to talk about a few of those clients who have created their own fun distractions to get back in front of their audience. And there we go. All right, now I'm on camera.
I fixed it.
We did it. All right. Hi, everyone. Not to be distracting myself. Let's make sure we're looking at the slides. So, we wish with the clients that we work with, we've helped them create games, quizzes, sweepstakes, and chances are all of you have run promotions yourselves. The typical promotion is going to be, hey, just fill out this form. You're entered to win, or you're entered for this. But anymore, people just kind of glaze over them. They need something a little bit more exciting to catch their eye, to get them involved. But you don't want to make it so much fun that you're not getting anything in return. There has to be a balance. You want to make it fun and still get some great data. And so with that, of course, there's the attention grabbing headlines that can try to get the low attention spans. And whether that's on your landing page or in the marketing material that you're putting out there to bring people to the landing page, to the contest, you're wanting to make sure to try to entice people. But then when they get to that page, when they get to the content, like, what are you going to do now? How are you going to keep them on there versus just having them see it and get bored? And really the benefits of all of that is you're still fueling the growth, you're boosting your sales, you're driving lead generation, you're reminding your customers that you are there amongst everything else that they're getting distracted with. Because let's face it, I'm sure some of you right now are looking at your phones, seeing what's going on social media. The first campaign I want to talk about is a client. They're called Evergreen. They are a fast casual restaurant up in the Pacific Northwest. And they had a slow period of time anyways that they wanted to focus on to see if they could drive more people into their store, into their restaurant. but it's slow anyways. And now they're trying to bring more attention to them, say, hey, we're still here. We got great food. And so they came and said, hey, what can we do? And they actually took two of our great interactive ideas and put them together. They ran a calendar advent campaign with instant win. So with these calendar advent campaigns, what it does is there's individual days on the campaign itself. And each day unlocks when it is that day. So they had control of saying, you know what, on December 1st, this is going to unlock and we're going to reveal whether it's a prize they're giving away that day, a limited discount, whatever it is. So just the calendar template, what it's accomplishing that on its own is it's creating a return rate you're normally not seeing with promotions, with marketing content, because now you're saying, hey, every day we're doing something new, but you have to come back here to see what is happening. So now you are getting put into a person's daily routine. Okay, I got to look at social media first. Oh, yeah, I want to see what they're giving away this day. So now you're part of their routine. You've gotten in between the distractions that is occurring, and now they're coming to see what's happening. Then the next part that we stuck in there, or that they put in there, was the scratch and win. So they came onto a day, they clicked on it, says, hey, we're doing an instant win promotion. Nothing is more gratifying than knowing immediately if you're a winner or not. Most sweepstakes, it's just that. It's a sweepstakes. You fill out the form, you find out much later on, hey, you're a winner, or you probably even forget that you even participated, and you never know what happens. With instant wins, they're going to know right then and there. And the other nice thing about instant wins is the general idea is you're giving away multiple prizes. With the restaurant, it's, discounts or appetizers, something that, oh, I won something. Now I'm going to go into the restaurant and make a purchase. And usually it's not just the one purchase with the discount. They're like, oh, okay, this looks good. This looks good. And so, yes, the restaurant gave them a discount for one item, but they bought many other items. They came in with some friends. So that ROI is worth it on giving away those discounts. And then with the instant win, the type that they ran, we have 4 types, but the type they ran was a scratch and win. So, who here loves just, if you go get gas or go into a convenience store or something, they have the scratch offs. You're that feeling of holding it in your hand, scratching away, and that anticipation to see, oh, am I a winner? Nope, that's okay. But you still do it, because even though most of the time you're not going to be a winner, that the anticipation is just invigorating, if you will. So we've kind of digitized that with our scratch and win, instant win. So they fill out the form in order to see if they're an instant winner, getting fast casual or the evergreen, the lead, or if it's you running it. And then they reveal an image that they can literally scratch away on their thumb with their screen, or if they're on their desktop, they can scratch it away there. So that gratification of the anticipation of seeing it being revealed just kind of hits those endorphins. It gets people excited. So then they want to do it. It's not just the fill out the form, that's it. They're like, oh, I'm going to know right away if I'm a winner, and that peels them away from everything else to see what's going on. To kind of carry on with that instant win idea, Rogue Ales and Spirits have been a client of ours for a while now, and they wanted to spread the word about their new canned products. They had some new designs on it, and they wanted to bring awareness to that, especially so then that way, of course, if you see it, and our previous presenter was making a great example of, carrying imagery across everything, that branding, to make sure that the audience knows that they're still, involved with the brand. They're still in the brand. So Rogue Ale ran an instant win. They wanted to collect customer email addresses as well, but their biggest thing was they wanted to get the visuals of their can out into the world. So they ran an instant win, and it's a spin the reel. You can see the graphic here on my slide here. The idea is after they fill out the form, getting Rogue Ale, the lead generation information, they would hit spin. And if anyone's ever been to a casino, you got the slot machine, the things spin. That's the same idea here. But the visuals on the reel are their cans. So now as
fun.
Exactly. And you can't hear it here, but there's also audio cues too. You hear it go.
I want to do it now. I want to join that giveaway.
Exactly. We're hitting all the senses now. It's visual, it's audio,
Yep.
it's that internal excitement. And even if they're not a winner, they're still seeing those cans. So now when they go to the store and they're, trying to figure out what they want for their weekend fun with friends or whatever it might be, they're like, oh, hey, I know that can. And so it's accomplishing so many different things. And that's something that I like to talk to our clients a lot too, is, campaigns can have more than one goal. It's just a matter of like, what's the big goal? And for Rogue Halo, the big goal is just that visual aid to get it out there, but then also to collect the new email addresses, which they did. They collected 22,541 new email addresses, and they saw an open rate of 54%, which is, that's amazing. But it's, I attribute some of that to the campaign is fun. They're still excited. They get that autoresponder, they get further communications, and they remember like, oh yeah, that was fun. I'm going to check it out. And it was a fun campaign for fun design for a fun company. So it's just, everything comes full circle. Now, another spin to win that a client used or that ran with us was Eureka vacuum. And let's face it, vacuums, they're not that exciting. It's a vacuum. It's kind of a thing. It's a fact of life. There are just certain things that just can't be exciting. But what they did is they said, okay, how can we be exciting, especially with launching a new vacuum? So they ran a promotion where you could instantly win a coupon or smaller prizes. And they collected 50,000 new leads. They had 200,000 total entries. They collected 50,000 new leads. Of those, 8,000 of them did a double opt-in. So those are even, the richest kind of leads that you can get, because they're that much more committed. They didn't just fill out the form and then they're going to opt out immediately afterwards. They opted in again because they want that further communication. That's 8,000 people that are low-hanging fruit for them. Hey, we have bags, we have this new vacuum, so on and so forth. And they got a 20% open rate, 3 to 5% click-through rate, and they sold out of the inventory. I'm not going to take full credit for that on the promotion, but it helped heavily in selling out that inventory. And again, they took vacuums and made it fun with the reel. And you'll see here as the reel goes, they put different things in there that attribute to the need of having a vacuum: spilled drinks, pets, just general messes. So everything visual on this campaign just kind of rubbed back around to the brand, which, again, going back to the first presentation, that's important. It's important to keep everything brand related in focus on your campaigns, on your activations.
Can I just say that it really bothers me that it's not winning in the GIF?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We have some great examples on our website.
I really wanted to win the vacuum as well.
The examples that we have, you can then hear the visual too. And if you're a winner, it's like this loud, fun, exciting so noise. Fun. And then if you're not, it's still, it's kind of like a lower end, like, oh, but it's still fun. It's just it's going back to interactive campaigns. It's you need to separate yourself from the rest. You need to separate yourself from the distractions, and these are just phenomenal examples of doing that. Now, a campaign on itself just can't be interactive, and that's it. There's still the foundational elements that you need to incorporate in order to make it a successful campaign. Of course, that's promote. Wherever you have an audience, you want to put out the message there, your social media, your ads, whatever it might be. And you also want to effectively track that too. You want to know what's working and what isn't. And whether it's platforms like us or anyone else, you always check to make sure that you're using all the proper tools to effectively track your means of promotion. Because nothing's worse than just throwing money at something and not knowing that it works or doesn't work. It's the most important thing to know that your money is going towards the right avenues. And then, brand websites, email marketing lists, incorporating on your website. And as a matter of fact, these types of promotions that you can run, if you have the ability to do it, which, we provide you with what is called an iframe, you could put it on your website. So now not only are you taking advantage of the traffic you already get on your website, but now when you're promoting it, you're not just sending it to a one-off site that once that promotion's over, it's done. You are sending all the traffic to your website. So even if the promotion's done and you still have links out there, they're coming to your website and they may not see the promotion, but now they're like, oh, look at that. I want to try that drink this weekend, or I need a vacuum. or I want to check out this restaurant. Whatever the situation may be, you're still bringing traffic to your website, and that's the best place for people to go anyways. And then of course, the tried and true press releases, if that makes sense for your company. And then on the level of a promotion itself, like what you're giving away, our general like best practice is give away something that ties back to you as a company. Now, of course, it does at times make sense to give away an iPad when you're not Apple, or give away just some kind of product, whether it's because you partnered with that product or that product brings a lot of eyeballs and you have enough trust in your services that you provide, or your product that you provide, that yes, they're all coming for the iPad, but then they see what you're providing. They're like, okay, I am interested in that, or I want to know more about that. But always just look at your price and make sure that, is it bringing the right people who are filling out the form, and these are the right email addresses that I need to reach out to. And then also you want to consider the ROI. Don't give away a $10,000 prize when your products are $50 each. Make sure that or are very confident that you're going to get enough business from $50 each to compensate for the $10,000 you just spent on the prize, on top of all the money you have to spend on advertising it and getting it out there, and your own time. People really don't think about their own time and what it takes to put into here. Whether you're a one-man shop, which obviously then your time is very important, or a large beehive of a company. Each individual worker does have their own thing that they need to do, but we all have a lot of things to do. So you want to make sure that your time is being spent wisely. Now, back to some fun stuff. The other nice thing, coming back to instant wins, is they're so fun that people want to share them. And that's kind of a key component of your campaigns, is put sharing on there. Unless for some reason it's such an exclusive campaign that you want to make the people who come to it think that it's just for them, and you want to kind of remove that sharing aspect, then sure, that's fine. But for general purposes, general contests, let people share and spread the word, because that's free advertising for you at that point. So making it exciting then helps people to want to share it. Like, hey, friend, check out this fun campaign. See if you're an instant winner. Because if you get a coupon to this restaurant, I want to go with you. It just kind of creates this escalation of spreading the idea of this campaign, spreading the awareness of it. Now, outside of Insta Wins, there's still other fantastic ideas that you can put out there. One that we've really enjoyed working with clients on is an interactive puzzle game. And you can again take a look at the screen here. Basically, what you're doing is it's an image that then we break up into puzzle pieces, and then you are timed to see how quickly you can put that puzzle piece back together. So now you're creating a game for people to use as their own distraction from either their work or whatever it might be, webinar, whatever it is that you're looking at distraction from. You could play a game like this, and not only is it just kind of a mundane game, but if you are being purposeful about it, you put an image there that when they put it together, it's revealing something to them, whether it's a discount code that then they can then go use, or maybe it's a festival concert poster and you put it together. Now it's revealed to you that your favorite band is going to be there. Now I'm interested. I want to go to this concert, or a movie poster, whatever it might be. They put it together, you reveal new information to them, and then they can fill out a form in order to win something in relation to that. Win tickets to the concert, win tickets to the movie, win that new product that we have now announced because you put together the puzzle pieces. And again, the sharing aspect, it gets competitive because people will know how quickly they did it, and they're going to share it with their friends and be like, I did it in 30 seconds. Can you do better? And it touches on so many different aspects of like the human nature. Then, a really great kind of evergreen, and when I say evergreen, if I'm throwing out terminology that some of them may not be familiar with, that's touching on the idea of something that is constant. You just have it on your website. It's there for discovery. It's also there for a distraction, but you can learn so much from people who participate in them, and do it in a way where the person that's providing you all that information, that's interacting with the quiz, they don't realize they're doing it because it's fun. It's not just some long questionnaire that's 20 questions. It feels overwhelming. And I run for the hills because I'm like, I don't have time to answer these 20 questions. With quizzes, you could ask them the 20 questions, but it's a visual each time. And it breaks it up in such a way that before I know it, I've answered 20 questions, I've given you my information, I've learned something. And now the most important part of something like this is you are collecting such rich information from your participants that you can break up your marketing data in so many ways. For example, this right here is a knowledge quiz. Netflix uses ShortStack and they utilize knowledge quizzes to tie into their new shows that they come out with. They want to run quizzes and say, hey, you watch the show. How well did you pay attention? How well do you know it? And so they go through and they get one question at a time, and they're trying to answer the questions correctly. And then they'll find out immediately if they got the question right or wrong. And then at the end, they get a score. Tying back into that competitiveness, now you can share your literal score on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page, and people can see what you got a score on, and then they'll click the link and try to beat your score. And then at the end of the day, Netflix now knows, okay, where are people not getting the right questions? Or now we have people that got 50% or lower. Let's reach back out to them and say, hey, maybe you should watch the show again, or maybe you should watch more of the show so you can remember and be more involved in the show. There's just so many places where Netflix or whomever's running these types of quizzes can touch on it. Another type of quiz that we have is a personality quiz, which I'm sure all of us here have done this. Like think the BuzzFeed types where what Friends character are you?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And people love those because they're just going to take the quiz and they may even take it more than once to see what the other options are.
Yeah.
And exactly. And with that, again, it's going back to the idea of what kind of data are you, pulling from people while they're having the fun taking the quiz. And whether it's on an individual question, 50% of people answered this one question with this response. What as a company tells us about the general population that took this? Does that reveal anything to us? And again, these are types of quizzes that you could just keep on your website. Of course, updated over time with some new stuff, but it's just kind of always there, distracting people, but getting you the information that you want in ways that the person doesn't realize they're actually doing it. And here we go. Personality quizzes. I spoke ahead of my own slide, but that's okay. And actually, a really great little bit of information here is studies show the conversion rate for quizzes is greater than 30% versus kind of 3 to 6% for most lead capture pages. And I'm going to attribute that back to just the idea of personality quizzes. It's bringing a result to them that then that person says, you know what, that result, that's me. And now you can market to that person based on that result. Say, hey, the quiz revealed that you are this type of wine. I'm a winery. This is the type of wine you are. I'm going to send you more information about it, different ways you can drink it, or different recipes that you can use it, or different places you can buy it, whatever it might be. Because now they're interested. Like, I did take the quiz. It said I was a pink Moscato. I want to know more about it. Great. They sent me more information. Now I'm a customer, and your revenue is up that much more. Hidden objects games. This is actually one of our newest templates and actually one of my favorites. And depending on the age here, I grew up in the 90s. There was this magazine called Highlights. I don't know if it's a global thing, it was here in the US. You always found it in like a doctor's office. As a kid, you pick it up and there was a page there where it says, hey, find all these objects. And there'd be this big image and you're going through finding the images. We've taken that idea and made it into a digital interactive campaign. Here we have a great example of Tootsie Roll. They ran one. It was for Valentine's Day. The sole purpose of Tootsie Roll doing it was just to do something fun on a day where it was kind of expected to have something fun. And they really took the idea of Valentine's Day and ran with it. You got the pinks, you got the reds. I mean, it says right there, Mr. Al's Valentine's Day Candy Search. And if anyone doesn't know who Mr. Al is, he's the how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll or a Tootsie Pop. So All they did was say, hey, we have this fun game, go play it. And you might win yourself a box of candy. They gave away 30, 40 boxes of the big boxes of candy. So the idea is you came onto the campaign, you got a clue, and it told you what item to look for in this big image. You clicked on it and you got a next clue. And you kept going with it until you got to the very last one, which then the form would reveal. And it's just really fun. It gets people, especially if you're putting it on the website, it's getting people on your website on there for a longer periods of time. And again, if you take the purposeful mindset of the image that you create that people are clicking on, put your products in there, put the clues in there that reveal to them what that product is. If this was like a Mountain Dew client, you'd have an image on there with all the different, because Mountain Dew has so many different drinks. You put all the images on there and the clue would say something along the lines of like, hey, this is a really energetic, fun red colored drink. I'm like, oh, okay, code red. I click on it. And now I know that code red maybe makes me feel more energized. So you could, again, just have so much fun with it. But the fun can equal ways to get more data from your clients and get more information in front of them without them thinking that you're just hitting them over the head and driving them away. Yeah. And so really, at the end of the day, it's not to say that your run-of-the-mill, hey, fill out this form, enter to win doesn't work. There's a time and place for that too. But anymore, as you think of your marketing efforts, again, first presentation talked about this a lot of, thinking about your goals, your audience, what you're trying to do, and also thinking about when you're doing it, how you're doing it. It may make sense to say, how can we make it more exciting to break through whatever other distractions are happening, whether digitally or, on the calendar itself, Christmas time, holiday, summer, whatever it might be.
Awesome. So we're jumping into the Q&A right now. So we have about 6 questions so far. I'll just take them in order, if that's okay.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So for how long do people tend to run instant win contests?
So there's actually a lot of different use cases for instant win. Like we have one client that they run them at different festivals. So their instant win runs for 2-3 day periods for the individuals at the festival, whether it's giving away festival swag or upgraded tickets. So if it's for an event, like a conference, a live event, festival, or a webinar, I've seen people do instant wins during webinars. Then I would say, it's in the constraints of how that event runs for. Then on the other end of it, it's, you want to think about like how many prizes you want to give away. Because, if you have 10 prizes, you don't want it to run for 20 days. You want to make it where like at least every day there's at least one winner. So if it's not event focused, but it's more, I have 20 prizes or 200 prizes, then that would allow you to extend the length of the promotion. Now to add one more item to that, you can run an instant win where you can give away a grand prize too. Like everyone that participates has a chance at instant win prizes. But then everyone that does participate is entered into the grand prize that you're going to give away at the end. So there's really no right or wrong way to do it, but it's just whatever makes sense for you and kind of what your budget is for prizes.
It really makes sense. Okay, a next question that I have here is, what types of solutions do you have for B2B businesses?
So for the B2B businesses, I always ask the clients that I work with, I say like, who's your audience? What is the goal? Because, one B2B audience here is going to be vastly different from the other B2B audience over here. So it's going to be unique to your scenario, but at a high level, quizzes are very important, I believe. Again, because of the delivery of information, a lot of times, especially like B2B, the people that are going to be buying from you, we go back to the idea of like, how much time do they have on their hands? Time is the most valuable resource that everyone has. So if someone isn't wanting to set up a call and discuss it, they're more of a self-learner, quizzes can work great for that. You put the knowledge quiz on your site, people can take it, they learn along the way, And then as a follow-up mechanism, you have such great information to reach back out to them. Even if they got 100% on the quiz, they know everything that they need to know. You still have a means of being able to follow up with them and say like, hey, yeah, you're an expert. Let's talk more advanced stuff. Like, let's go above and beyond just the main reason you came to us and see what else we can do for you. So yeah, I love quizzes as an effective tool for B2B.
That sounds awesome. Cool. Next question here is, how does this interactive content fit into a brand's overall marketing strategy?
I would say it can fit in a different couple of ways. One is, the overall look, like that Tootsie Roll example that I showed you. A brand's overall marketing strategy is its brand itself, its color scheme, how they come across, the elements that they use from one effective campaign to the next. And that Tootsie Roll example is a fantastic example because they brought in the owl, which anyone, again, growing up in the 90s and 80s, they remember that commercial of the owl licking the Tootsie Roll. So now it's becoming nostalgic for you. They use the browns, the reds, that is on all of their marketing material.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Tootsie Roll in general, they're fun. And so they created a fun campaign. They're just, anytime they're trying to interact with their customer, they're just trying to keep that sense of fun everywhere. So as a brand, it's just a matter of, how do you continue to get in front of your audience, and in what ways, consistent ways, are you doing it? So, sometimes an interactive campaign may not make sense, but if you've never done it, you don't know that it doesn't. And so it's just a matter of doing that effective planning and looking at your options, whether it's, talking to us about your options or whatever platform you might be using, saying, hey, what have you seen clients do, or what all could we do? And then, really discussing and see how it could fit well.
That makes sense. Awesome. I have 3 more questions here. Let's look at them. So what's the typical ROI for hidden object games, and how do you measure it?
Oh, that's a great question. With the hidden objects giveaway, and this is kind of it's kind of a gray area when it comes to ROI. The more fun you get with campaigns like the hidden objects giveaway, it all depends on the kind of the content you're putting in the image. If I'm going through and I'm clicking and I'm discovering, then just on that level alone, you're now realizing that, okay, we're getting visual cues in front of our audience. They're seeing the different types of products that we have, which then when they go to the store or, whatever it might be, then we know that we're in there, they're going to recognize it and hopefully make a purchase. The ROI and the hidden objects giveaway is really going to come to, in my opinion, the form submission, what you're going to do with the emails after the fact. But I would say, kind of going to ROI, and I touched on like prizes. You do want to look at the type of campaign you're running and say, okay, this hidden objects giveaway, our goal here is to just to be more fun. If I like Tootsie Roll, they wanted to just be fun. They didn't expect a massive amount of ROI to come out of it. But, at the time that they did it, which I believe was 6 to 8 years ago, it did get some social media discussion happen, which on its own is also a return on investment. People are talking about your brand. Now they're checking it out. You're in the news. And then people are like, I haven't had a Tootsie Pop in a long time. I'm going to go get one. So there's different aspects of ROI that you should be looking at. And the hidden objects giveaway, I would say for that one, that return on ROI is going to be kind of the variety of things that can happen because of that. People are going to be talking. And of course, there are ways to measure that through other platforms, mentions of your brand. So if you're seeing big mentions happening right around when you released it, then you can attribute it back to that. And however you effectively convert that mentions into kind of like a value, then I would say that's how you're going to track that ROI.
Perfect. Okay, so the next 2 questions are the final questions for you. Then we're going to let you off with your day. So this next question asks, well, actually they say, those scratch off contests looked interesting. What are some other ways your customers have used this type of contest?
Lately what's been very popular use case for those is now that the pandemic is, we're kind of back to normal, the new normal at least. And so conferences are coming back, conventions. And one of the biggest components of having a presence at a convention, having a booth, is you have your free swag. You have the free swag in order to get people to show up and be like, oh yeah, I want a t-shirt or I want a pin. The idea there is now you're creating a conversation, you're getting in front of people. What I've had clients starting to do now is they'll do a scratch and win at their booth, and that's how they give away their free swag. So they'll have QR codes or iPads at the booth. And so you scan the QR code and I put in my information. So now, you're getting information at the convention that you can follow up on. Ask whatever information you want. And then they get the reveal and they scratch away to see what the free swag is. And, generally speaking, the idea of an instant win is there's a winner and a loser. But you can actually change that where everyone's a winner. And the idea there would be that your bigger ticket swag items, maybe you have like 5 of them or 10 of them, like the more expensive items. That's not for everybody. Those can be for the actual winners. And then the people who don't win, it'll still say that they won, but it's like, hey, you got a t-shirt or you got the pen or the bottle open. So,
or a bigger discount.
Or a bigger discount. Exactly. Everyone walks away as a winner, but you're modifying it. So then, because you don't want someone to come to the booth and be like, I didn't win. And now they have a bad taste about your, like, I did it, but I didn't win. You want everyone to be a winner. Yeah. You can accomplish that. So I would say that's been a pretty popular one I've seen as of late, which, makes sense. And again, going back to the idea of distractions, if you're at a conference, you got to stand out amongst everyone else. So doing an instant win like that, scanning it, now people are going to talk about it, like, I saw this really cool instant win. You should go check it out. So now more traffic is coming to your booth.
Absolutely. And then the final question that we have here is, are there any competition rules, compliance, opt-in, etc., that you have to make clear to your customers? Do these vary per country, or how do they work?
Well, just a disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, but been doing it long enough that I am familiar with things that you should be aware of. So first and foremost, yes, contest rules are going to be different based on country. One great example of that is in the United States. Most of the case, there's very few outliers, but most of the cases, you cannot require someone to make a purchase. But in other countries, you can. So that's a great example of the difference in countries. And then, yeah, when it comes to contests, you always want to see, some of the determining factors is going to be, what is your prize value? Because if you get, especially in the States, if your prize value is too high, or I wouldn't say too high, but if it gets to a certain amount of value, now there's tax paperwork involved. The person who wins it has to submit paperwork to the IRS because it's taxable, all of that fun stuff. And then on an individual state basis, there's things you have to be aware of based on prize value. I will say that if your prize value is under a certain amount and you're doing just kind of a random draw, which would be considered like a sweepstakes, rules themselves can become more standard. We do have a great blog post about rules, at least within the States, that you should be aware of. And there is kind of a boilerplate template that you can start with, but we always recommend that you should always get some kind of legal counsel to review what you have. Because at the end of the day, everyone, anytime you participate in a contest or something, we never read the rules. You're going to fill it out and off you go. The rules aren't there really for the individual participants. They are a layer of protection for, for us as contest runners, as companies. Because if something does happen, you'll have your rules as a way of saying like, no, it clearly says here in the rules, so sorry, and then off you go. If you don't have a good set of rules, chances are something could happen. That's not a guarantee that something would, but it's just there to protect you as a client.
I like to say that the rules are for the exception, not for everyone else.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. I think that's all of the questions that we had for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to applying them later. So I hope everyone else enjoyed the session today. I know for sure I did.
I thank you for having us. We enjoyed it. And if anyone does have questions or anything related to what we talked about, you're more than welcome to reach us at shortstack.com, and we'll be happy to help you.
Perfect. Perfect. We'll also be sending all that information in the recording and the follow-up email after our webinar. So thanks again for joining us. I will change you back to attendee so that we can move ahead with the last part of our webinar. Our last part of our webinar was supposed to also have a bit of a break, but we're not going to do that because I know it takes a lot of energy out of people to sit through an hour and a half of content. So I'm just going to move on into the final section of today's webinar, which is where I'll be the one talking. And so I will talk to you about how you can use social media to amplify your marketing efforts. But before I do that, let me first properly introduce myself. My name is Anka. I'm a social media marketing strategist here at SocialBee, and over the past 6 years or so, I've been helping people and guiding them through how they can make the most out of their social media efforts and making it easier for them to be able to focus on the different aspects of their business, and so that they don't have to worry about social media. And if you're not familiar with SocialBee, we're a social media management tool that can help you create, schedule, and analyze your content so that you have it all in one place. And you'll see on the screen a few of the unique selling propositions or a few of the features that we have that that could really help you, among which are the ability to engage with your audience directly in SocialBee on different platforms, sharing your content from one place to multiple platforms, creating categories, schedules, recycling, all of that good stuff. But I'm not here to talk about SocialBee, so let's move into the actual information. So we're going to talk about how you can use social media to amplify your marketing efforts. And I'm sure some of you may have already noticed that it may be challenging to attribute ROI to social media, but your presence on social media actually contributes to you building brand awareness and thought leadership. And some of the ways in which you can use social media to contribute to positive ROI are by having increased web traffic, by building a community around your brand, by gaining valuable insights into your target audience, and so on. So I'm gonna quickly go through in a few ways of how you can align your marketing goals with your social media strategy. Usually social media is just one component of a comprehensive marketing strategy. And my advice is that you don't use it as a standalone tactic, but rather as part of a complete marketing plan, which is why it is adjacent to everything that Adam and Michelle have spoken about before me. It helps to ensure consistency for your brand. It helps to ensure that you can track your success, improve targeting and messaging, and it also helps you optimize your budget. So overall, by taking a strategic approach to social media, you can create a powerful tool that supports your broader marketing efforts and drives results for your business. How do you do that? Well, your overall marketing goals should determine the role of your social media funnel. From there, once you've determined your social media role or the role of your social media in your funnel, you'll go into creating your content strategy, because taking a strategic approach to social media can help you, and it can be a powerful tool to support your broader marketing efforts. So before launching any marketing campaigns, it is it's essential to define your goals. And to do that, you can create a more effective marketing strategy that drives results by using SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I'm sure everyone knows about these. My suggestion is that you just ask yourself a few questions when you're setting your goals. Questions like, what do you want to achieve with your marketing efforts? Are you looking to increase sales? Are you looking to generate brand awareness, create a community? What are you looking for? Once you know the answer to that question, you'll be able to be more specific about your goals and make sure that they align with your business objectives. So first thing you need to do is determine the role of your social media sales funnel, right? Social media could be an integral part of your sales funnel. And all you have to do to figure out if that's the case is to answer the 3 questions that you see on the screen. This is where you'll be able to learn how people learn about you in the brand awareness section, how much they trust you, how they perceive you, and it's also how you can learn to communicate what you want them to do. Subscribe to your newsletter, buy your products, join a demo call, join a webinar, things like that. So there's a few ways that you can do here. So just as a small example, if your marketing goal is to increase web traffic by 25% over the next 6 months, your SMART objective will be to increase the number of social media referrals to the website by 30% by the end of the 3rd month, because that will help overall get you to your marketing goal. And you'll do so with these 4 actions that you'll see on the screen. So increase the frequency of posting on social media by 25%, run targeted social media ads to drive traffic to the website, collaborate with influencers on social media to bring more visibility, and use the analytics to track your referral traffic and adjust your social media strategy as needed. So you've now defined your marketing goal and you've determined the role of social media in your sales funnel. So it's now time to develop a content plan that supports your strategy. But before we can do that, you have to know a few things. First off, know your audience, know your competition, and know yourself. This means that you can look at all of these 3 things. I just added here 5 factors that you can look at: tone of voice, content topics, platforms, content format, and timing of posts. And you can look at how your audience prefers each of these. You can look at what your competition is doing for each of these factors. And you can also look at what you yourself are, or what your preferences are for each of these factors. Because for instance, if you prefer a funny approach and your competition is more professional toned, but your audience is rather welcoming of informal language, that's something that sets you apart from your competition, just as a small example. So you can look at each of these. And as for social media platforms, I'll show you in my next few slides, you can research where your audience spends most of their time based on their generation, based on what types of information they're looking for. And you can even look at where your competition is active and also what your preferences are to figure out what platforms you should be a part of. So you can also develop a social media strategy that supports your goals by looking at the elements that I mentioned earlier. So just to give you a few quick examples, I won't go through all of them because I know we're shorter on time, but basically, if we're comparing Instagram and Twitter, for instance, Instagram is a place that's very visual and it's for young people, you know, Gen Z, millennials, they're also going to be on Instagram. They expect images and video content, and this type of content needs to inspire, motivate, entertain, or educate, right? One of these pillars, but usually it's going on the infotainment, entertainment factor. On the other hand, Twitter works well with images, works well with videos, links, as well as just text only. And this is where audiences expect professional advice, they expect news, but they also expect memes. So it's a mix, again, of information and entertainment gotten together to create something unique. The same goes for Facebook versus LinkedIn, where one is more B2C focused, the other one is more B2B. And then you also have other platforms like TikTok, which is very short form video friendly. And it's very informative, it's very authentic, it can include trending videos, whereas Pinterest is more inspirational, it's more this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be, vision board, roadmap type of things. So moving on from the platforms that you're going to be on, you're also going to need your pillars of content when you're creating your content plan. And here you'll see just a few ideas of pillars of content that you can use, or we in Social Bee, we call them categories of content. It's basically what creates your overall content mix so that you can make sure that you're not boring your audience with the same thing over and over again. So of course, you're going to have promotional content in there because you have to promote your business, you have to promote your products or your services, but that's only going to be around 20% of your total content. Then you're also going to mix in some engaging content to form that community. You're also going to bring in some educational content to educate on the value of your products or services. You're going to bring in some maybe curated content that lifts your authority in the field from outside sources. And you can even mix in some inspirational content or motivational or whatever else you have in there so that you can create a mix that's quite balanced for your audience. Next up, the next advice is to use a calendar and schedule your content in advance. This will help you make sure that you are consistent in your posting because you'll only have to do it like once a week or once a month instead of having to go through it every single day and then miss I don't know how many days because something happened and I didn't have time to work on social media. Here you'll see that there are 4 elements that you need to be very aware of: your posting time, your social media channels, your captions and links if you have any, or visuals if you don't have any links. These are the 4 main elements of any scheduler, of any calendar tool that you will see. And these are the ones that you should always keep in mind when using a calendar. Now, before I move on, I also wanted to share 5 quick tips on how you can maximize your efficiency when creating your content and when you're having your content days. So first thing is to analyze your top performing content. Look at the previous batch of content that you've created, whether it's 1 month or 1 week. Look what worked, look at what didn't, and determine what's the best performing content. That way you can replicate it in future batches of content. You can also make sure that you create your content in batches. I spoke a little bit ahead on this subject. Don't create your content on a daily basis because you never know what's going to happen and it's not going to allow you to always be consistent. And with social media, you need to have this consistency. You need to have a rhythm to your posting. So instead, dedicate 1 day, a week or a month to create your content for the upcoming week or for the upcoming month or for the upcoming season. It's up to you how frequently you do this, but it's also very important that you do it so that you liberate yourself from the shackles of social media, so to speak. Our next tip is to share evergreen content. If you don't know what evergreen content is, it's basically content that is not time-bound. It's not time-sensitive in any way. And you'll see on screen right now 2 posts, one that's time-sensitive, one that's not. The post above, it doesn't mention any time sensitivity whatsoever. It's not tied to an event. It's not tied to a date. It's not tied to anything that could indicate time sensitivity, not even seasonal one. So it's not even tied to something like Easter or Christmas or December or whatever. So that one can be shared whenever you need it, whenever you want to bring it back into your audience's attention. On the other hand, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see our Black Friday deal for 2021. Now, that one is specifically out of interest in 2023 in April. So that one is not recyclable. It's not something that we can share over and over again because it is time bound. So focus your content on or around evergreen content as much as possible, especially with your blog content, testimonials, things like that, that can be recycled. And of course, you can mix in some time-sensitive content because it is necessary, but evergreen content can save you whenever you don't have something to post and you need something quickly. And that way you don't have to just create a post for the sake of creating it. You can share something that's quality. On the same note, repurposing your content and reusing your content is a very good strategy to have. So if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel and you're constantly sharing video formats there or podcast audio files, you can also repurpose those into quotes. You can repurpose them into shorter form videos for Reels, for TikToks, for YouTube Shorts. So there's a few ways in which you can do. You can add the transcript in a blog post. There's a ton of things that you can do to repurpose your content and reuse it. Even just a small rephrase of the caption can help. And finally, make use of templates in your batching. This will help you quickly run through the different types of content that you're creating, and it will also help make your feed cohesive and your brand easy to recognize, because once you have a pattern, once you have a template, it's all there. Next up, we're going to talk about analytics and how you can measure the success of your social media strategy. So here we're talking about a few metrics that can help you in figuring out what works and what doesn't for you. I'm just going to talk real quick about a few of them. So follower growth is one that helps you measure the growth of your social media presence. Engagement rate, for instance, indicates how well your content is resonating with your audience. So that means the higher the engagement rate, the better. Conversion rate helps you measure the effectiveness of your social media in your ROI, in generating leads more specifically, or even sales, depending on what you want to achieve. There are, of course, other metrics that are not on the screen: click-through rate, referral traffic, impressions. There's a lot more that you can look at, but these are the main few ones. And then I'm going to share with you 3 steps on how you can apply the data that you pull from your analytics. So we've talked about the different metrics that you can use. Once you have those metrics, the first thing that you need to do is revisit your goals. This will help you keep them fresh in mind and make sure that they are still accurate, they are still relevant to you, and they are still attainable. The second step there is to identify the areas of improvement. You can do this by looking at the lowest performing analytics, the lowest performing content. So if your engagement rate is low, you can look at creating more engaging content by using polls, by using games, by using even just a fill in the blank, or asking a question or anything like that. And third, once you have all that information, you know what didn't work, you know what you need to adjust, it's time to do that. It's time to adjust your strategy and experiment with different formats, different topics, different messaging, everything, just to see what works and what resonates with your audience. And in essence, social media is just a constant test, a constant experiment, because things in social media tend to change like that. So always test new things, always be aware of what trends are going, and anything in that direction. I'm going to drink a sip of water and then we'll continue. Okay, so I spoke a lot. I tried my best to narrow it down so that I keep your attention for a little longer. And now I hope that I have done that, because I have a 50% discount on the first 3 months of use on any of the plans that we have over at SocialBee. So if you are on the market for a social media scheduler and you want us to help you with everything that I've spoken about in today's session, you can go to app.socialbee.com and you can use the code SocialBee50 times 3 to get your 50% off of the first 3 months. And now I'm going to run into a Q&A session very quickly. So if you have any questions, drop them in the box. I do see 2. So let's quickly go through them. So my first question is, how do you stay up to date with the latest social media trends and best practices? This is a very good question. My advice is that you follow other businesses that are in the market. For instance, SocialBee has a blog that is very frequently updated with new information. Our social media is also focused in that direction. You can use other sources that are focusing on social media, education, and you can also just see what's there on social media. With TikTok, it's very quickly visible through trends. Instagram, the same. So just continue using your platforms and sign up to newsletters and read blogs that are in the industry to stay up to date. And then the last question that I have here is, how can you use user-generated content to enhance your social media strategy? That's a very good question. So actually, user-generated content is a great way for you to leverage the users that are following you and their content and make your life even easier. You can first ask for permission, always ask for permission, but you can take any images, any videos that you've previously talked about with the user who took them, and just repurpose them on your own on your own social media channels. So I always give this example with a water bottle. So if I were to sell water bottles, and some of you would be posting the water bottle that I sold on your social media in different instances, I would be contacting you and asking you for permission to use that photo on our social media with credits, of course. And most of the people usually are very happy to say, yes, that's not an issue. And yeah, I think that's a good way to get started with user-generated content. It can provide authenticity and it can provide a lot of value, and it builds trust in your brand as well. And then one more question popped up here. Any advice for healthcare marketers for best channels to reach prospective patients? That's a little more specific than I can answer right now. My guess is that it depends on what types of patients you have. So I guess it's one thing if your patients are there for aesthetic surgeries, or if they're there to get some treatment, but or if they're in different generations, because older generations might be better found on Facebook, younger ones on TikTok, Instagram, things like that. So it really depends on a lot of factors. Yeah, I think you should look into seeing where your audience spends their time. That's in essence what this is about. So I really hope I answered all of your questions. I'm sorry for the delay in this webinar, and I think it's time for me to shut up. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Michele and Adam, for being a part of today's webinar. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can always reach out to us at hello@socialbee.com, and we'll be more than happy to reply to any of these questions. And that's it for today. So I'll see you guys in our next webinars. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for joining us.